Bruce, you're the CFO and Sustainability Officer for the Soneva Resorts Group. We're here at your Soneva Fushi property in the Maldives, 21 years old. Very successful, profitable business. But you have such a major component related to this sustainability thing, the environment. And you maintain a high level of professional resources, human resources in particular, related to environment, marine life. You invest in lots of equipment that facilitates your protection of the environment. How do you merge the two? How do the two work hand in hand? Is there a payoff? Have you reached the stage, because you've been at this for 20 years?
I think a lot of people would see sustainability and finance as being, or having a CFO that's the head of sustainability as a conflict of interest.
Yep.
And I think that if you are committed, or if you have any long-run perspective, then to have a CFO that isn't focused on sustainability is a conflict of interest. Because if we look at our business, if we look at where we are now, this is an extraordinary place. People come here because of what we offer, because of how we look after where we are. And sustainability is just simply part of our core business. It is what we do. And we need, rather than being a profitable business that needs to be sustainable, we're a sustainable business that needs to be profitable. And sustainability, if we look back over the years, has added dramatically to our bottom line. Rather than being a tax on performance, it's quite the opposite. And in everything that we do, we look at whether it's the three C's, the triple bottom line or the quadruple bottom line, or however you want to term it nowadays. We focus on making sure that the financial component of that exists. That the operations have to wash their face. So, for example, our recycling centre is actually called Waste to Wealth. And that's done with a very specific purpose, and that's to drive innovation around upcycling and reuse, and to make sure that waste is seen as a resource, not as a cost on the business. We recycle or reuse around about 80% of whatever is produced on this island. Things like plastics, we collect up, we clean them, we send them across for recycling, because that's something we can't recycle here. Metal is the same thing. But everything else we do here, food waste, for example, we convert food waste into organic compost. That compost is used to sustain the organic gardens, which produce the majority of the green food that's eaten at the resort, and that's sold to guests. So our food costs relative to other resorts in the Maldives are quite substantially lower. And it's because of our focus on genuine local produce. And when we say local, it means producing it on our resort. So that's one example of where sustainability is very, very good for the bottom line. And I was writing an article a while back, and I really struggled to think of an investment which didn't make sense for us, a sustainability investment. We're just about to commission a 600 plus kilowatt solar facility here at Soneva Fushi, and the way we've used an innovative financing product to get it done, but the savings that generates and the payback that delivers for us means that it's the capex really for a remote island like this is a no-brainer. And there are many, many examples of that where sustainability simply drives the bottom line. It's not something that we have to balance.
Right. I want to remind the audience how you market the resort is not about the sustainability. It is about the luxury, the experience, and so forth. That brings them to book. But when they come here, those who take on the exploration of the various aspects of your sustainability they're probably very impressed and surprised.
Yes, I think first timers come here, you expect either. I think most people look at sustainability and think, well, it doesn't sit well with luxury. But then I think it's the question to ask is, what is the true definition of luxury? And at Soneva, the focus of luxury is about time, it's about space, it's about fresh food, it's about all the things that don't exist in people's everyday lives. So when you come here, there are no cold showers because it's not necessary.
I want to expand on that a little bit for our audience. I mean, what I see as luxury here, right? The first thing you land on your here, and you go to your villa, and my man Friday says, "Oh, and here's your private exercise room, brand new exercise equipment." We go into the villa, and I check out. There's this wine bar with some of the finest wines from around the world, and you have one of those fancy wine vacuum machines. Of course, your espresso machine, that's the standard, and fine coffees. But every nick and cranny, you've either provided the kind of equipment or comfort that any of your guests would expect. Right? Because the price here is such that if you need to ask what it costs, you can't afford it. And so there's that luxury. And your first meal experience is like the variety and extensiveness of the meals, and the quality is very high. So that to me, and the 2-to-1 staff to, or 2 to 3 to 1 staff to guest ratio. Now that's luxury to me. Sure, you got lots of experiences and the marine life, etc., but you talk slightly different about that.
Yeah, I think what people want in terms of the true luxuries are, again, those elements of time, space, and good food. And good food you've just touched on it, may be organic wines from around the world. For us, food sourcing is something that's absolutely critical. We've got to understand where our food comes from. And as much as we try to do things locally here, so for example, the majority of our fish obviously comes from these beautiful waters behind us. We grow almost all of our green produce here. But when you're dealing at a level that we deal at, one needs to provide more than just fish and breadfruit. And so we need to import a lot of food. And we source pretty much every item that we sell individually. So we know, it may be through a general supply, but we know exactly where that food comes from.
How it is grown, how it is prepared. That is a sustainable food chain process.
Correct. So we have what's called a total impact assessment, a TIA, which is another way of saying that is called an EPNL, an environmental P&L, and that runs alongside our traditional financial P&L. And what the EPNL does is it measures the contribution that we make to society. And that contribution has negative elements to it, for example, carbon emissions in shipping food in. But it has positive elements to it as well, for example, the jobs that we create. So there is a way in which we can measure all of these contributions to the world, and what we focus on is the net result. Are we a net positive contributor to the earth and to society overall? And if we're not, and thankfully we are, but the areas where we have negative scores, we focus in on those like a laser, because we can, being able to source your food correctly means that you can dramatically reduce the impact that you're having on the world simply by choosing to buy salmon from one source rather than from another. And then, of course, we we have the Soneva Foundation as well, which deals with the externalities that we create. So if you look at our carbon emissions, about well over 80% of our carbon emissions actually come from our guest flights. We're a long-haul destination here in the Maldives, so people have got to get here, and your average European flying here return trip will be about 3 tons of carbon emissions, and we've taken responsibility for that. And so we have the Soneva Foundation, and we fund the Soneva Foundation through a 2% levy on guest stays, and that 2% levy funds investment projects in emerging countries which allow us to offset the carbon emissions. And again, we use a very sort of financially focused development program with the foundation. We don't just donate the cash. We set up our own projects. For example, we have a project in Myanmar which distributes cook stoves and generates carbon emissions, and we can offset those carbon emissions against the guest flights through the delivery of cook stoves in rural parts of Myanmar. And it's those we've planted 500,000 tree forest in Chiang Mai in Thailand, for example. We have a wind turbine in India. So all of these things, but they all have an economic element as well as a social element.
And I want to remind the audience that Sonu and Eva, the owners of this resort group, been doing this for 20 years. This is not something, they just thought we better get on the green bandwagon. They are the pioneers, and this is the real stuff. Thank you so much, Bruce.
Pleasure.